Welcome to Business Over a Brew, the show where we talk business with some of the Riverbend's most interesting and influential business people, all while enjoying a nice brew at Elijah P's Burgers and Brews in Alton. In this episode, we'll talk to Brew-Brett Mayberry. We'll discuss how changes in technology and people have impacted the banking business today and why community involvement is so important to Liberty Bank. So let's get to it. It's the Business Over a Brew podcast from Elijah P's. Brett, welcome to Business Over a Brew.
Thanks for having me.
You've been at Liberty Bank now for a while. Tell us a little bit. Start with kind of your career progression and how you ended up where you are.
Sure, absolutely. Well, been at Liberty a little over 10 years. Started back in the day. College came out with an advertising degree. Worked in a PR and advertising firm over in St. Louis for a little bit, and then bounced over back to the Telegraph. I was on the Telegraph as an ad director for about 5 years. Got into banking. Really, the short story is had a client who advertised this as Telegraph and was starting Jersey State Bank and was starting an in-store Walmart branch where they were told that they need to do promotions and advertising and not pick a typical banker to help them out. So got recruited kind of into that scenario. Worked at Jersey State Bank about 5 years, Pulaski Bank across the way for 5 years, and then Liberty for the last 10.
It's funny how, and I had a similar story of being at the radio station and then being recruited away to Edward Jones. But it's funny how those relationships, they're so ultra important no matter what business you're in, really. It's such a key to being successful in business is building those relationships.
Absolutely. There's so many transferable skills. I think it's great if somebody finds what they want to do early on and stay in it for 40, 50 years, wonderful. But a lot of times things change and you get other opportunities and the certain skill set transfers over. And my old college buddies joke with me about, you're in banking. How many finance classes did you take back in the day?
Right,
you're an advertising guy. Well, but every business, if you don't market and advertise yourself, you're not going to be very successful.
So. Well, and even banking is certainly about numbers. There's that component of it, but it's really more about people and relationships than it is about numbers.
Absolutely, it's the relationships. It's completely, there's, as we joke internally, as I tell people, the interview process even on up is there are places down the street. There's 15 banks that way, 8 credit unions that way. There's other places, brokerage firms. There's a lot of places people can do their banking. It's really the people who make the difference.
One of the things I've always admired about Liberty Bank has been just your community involvement. Talk about Liberty Bank's commitment to that and just how important it is to your organization.
Happy to do that. That's one of the key things to me. And like I said, I worked over in St. Louis for several years, but have lived in Alton for 25 years now, and living and working in the same community because of the things we do. It's really great for me. I enjoy that. Liberty Bank Amphitheater, certainly we are committed to that. It's certainly a city project, an amphitheater commission, but when that started, to get that off the way they wanted to, they need some pretty good sponsors. For people who don't know, no city money really goes into that project.
Right.
It's all sponsorships. So we signed on early for a 3-year commitment early on. It gone so well, we re-upped for a couple of years. It's a big one. Sam the Eagle. If people haven't seen Sam the Eagle running around, kids love Sam the Eagle. Our character, we have him out at typically 40 to 50 events a year. But we're very committed to that type of stuff. It's something we instill in our staff too. So the volunteer aspect. To be a community bank, you have to work in the community. It's very simple. The word's in there, so you have to do it. And I'm very pleased that we do.
I know the Gordon Moore project is something that you guys have been heavily involved in as well.
Absolutely. That's I don't think people know what a jewel that is for a town, city area our size. That Gordon Moore Park is outstanding, and I think it's been kind of forgotten about for the 40 years, it's there. But so to have that commitment to the new project, and our president's been very involved, our bank's been very involved, and several others too, but it's been a neat project. And there's a big event coming October 1st, I think. It is a family fun day type thing, so people can see some of the stuff happening on that lines.
You've been in this community for a long time. In your eyes, what are some of the biggest strengths of the Riverbend community?
I'm continually amazed about the volunteer hours. We talked about the bank, but just people in general. I serve in a lot of organizations, and I'm amazed how it's young folks. It's also ladies and gentlemen who are into their 80s who are still committed to things like Rotaries, Kiwanis, go through the list, and we could sit here for hours along that lines. And I think what that is, as I try to figure that out, I think what that is this area, the factories, the steel towns, hardworking folks who understand that if they do things for their friends and neighbors, it'll come back to them. So I think that's just continued because they've instilled that in their younger for their kids and things along that line. So I think it's one of the biggest things in our. I'm continually amazed at the volunteer projects that are done, and the people who spend time with no pay and volunteer along that lines. That's a thing that I think is outstanding for our area, and just continues to, Alton growing. I think Alton in the area is improving over the course of time these last few years because of a lot of effort by folks.
Absolutely. The workforce is changing quite a bit. It's, obviously older people are going to be retiring and younger people are going to be moving in and taking their spot. And it's such a different time now than it was when my dad entered the workforce, or your dad, where, they were probably going to get a job and be there for 35, 40 years and retire and not change jobs every, even when I entered the workforce, I think the average was 3. Now it's every 2 years, I think, is the average of the amount of change that goes into a career. How are you guys adapting to that and making sure that you retain quality employees?
Sure. Well, I think what we try to do is instill folks in, we're not paying you. Yes, you're working here, but it helps with customer service as well. We're not paying you. The customers who take their time and energy to bank with us are the ones paying you. So that helps out from that standpoint of if we can't treat our customers right, or if we can't treat our employees right, they're certainly going to treat our customers right. So what we have a lot that happens that helps our longevity of staff is their coworker right beside them is going to counsel them as much as any manager ever could, or as much as I could. That's the person who's right beside them consistently. So we certainly have change, we certainly have turnover, but we've also got some folks who've been with us a long time. It's challenging though, because as you said, it's stereotypical sometimes to use the millennial term, but they certainly a lot of times expect difference, and I think that a lot of times moves into that. I'm bouncing to the next job. But I think there's also some companies, and I don't think we're like this at Liberty, but I also think there's some companies, and not even in this area so much, that loyalty has to be a two-way street.
Sure.
So to get that employee's commitment, that staff team members' commitment, certainly has to come from all the way at the top, all the way down to the people they deal with. So I think there's a little bit of both ways, but I think we've become kind of a society that's kind of become, I want it now. Sure. And in the business, we're all going to work, unless we win the lottery, we're all going to work 30 to 50 years, probably, in the workforce. So it can't come. You're not going to get that first promotion very seldom in the first 6 months, first year. And I think that the society, the younger folks sometimes think it's going to come real quick.
Right.
That's a change that's a little bit challenging.
I think another change, probably certainly in your business, has been from the customer standpoint of, the technology obviously has changed so much, and now it's really a buyer's market in almost every product, where people expect to have all the latest technology, but also the security and privacy that's always been there, and that's got to be a difficult challenge for you guys.
It is very challenging. Technology, absolutely a great thing. Technology can also be a challenging thing. And to keep people's, in our world, finances, we're keeping money safe, but people also want that access to where they can pay with their phone, or they can do this. Well, what if that gets lost? And then we got a fraud potential, and then so it's challenging. It's very challenging along that lines. We try to be the nice community bank, but we also offer a lot of the things that the big bank, most of the things that big banks offer. So but it's challenging, because with everything's just a click away, literally. And not only local competition, but online banking competition. Online banks. I can send my direct deposit about anywhere with the technology. Right. So it really goes back to a lot of it. What's the value that the company or the business gives me, or in our case, the bank gives me? Well, I'm going to walk in. I'm not just going to get a smiling face. I'm going to get people who hopefully know me and ask about my grandkid or ask about things like that, because that's the difference, I think, in any type of business nowadays is, so give me the things I need, because I can get those about anywhere.
Right.
But then how are you going to treat me? Type thing. So it's an old adage, treat people how you want to be treated.
Right. You've worked with a lot of businesses, seen a lot succeed, a lot fail. What is some advice you would give to an entrepreneur just starting out?
I think know your business, but continue your training. Nobody knows everything, and as things rapidly change, if you don't stay up to the trends, you may have a successful business this year, but if things change and you think your business is going to be that same way for the next 5 years, you're probably looking for something else to do in 5 years because your business is not successful anymore. So if you don't continue to grow with the times, you're probably going to have a struggle. But I think it's people know nowadays if you know your business. I think they understand. You'll get asked questions and things along that lines. If you're not comfortable and or you don't get your staff comfortable, people will see through the BS, for lack of a better term.
Right, right. And finally, I'll finish with what I like to finish with: 3 people that you could have dinner with, dead or alive.
Okay.
Let's say theoretically they'd be alive at the dinner at least.
Well, that would be nice. Yeah. I mean, not much conversation
Right,
if 3
yeah.
propped up, huh? I am a big sports guy, big basketball fan. John Wooden. I think
Yeah, that's a great
he's passed away, of course. So
Sure.
I kind of trumped your
Right.
asterisk there. But if not John Wooden, one of the successful coaches now. I like Brad Stevens, Celtics coach. I mean, just to pick a brain of folks
Right.
who kind of do that kind of stuff. Kind of a little bit of a historian. I think, good old USA type thing. So again, I'm going back to folks who maybe aren't alive. They've been
Right.
cropping up. Sorry.
That's a lot, yes.
Maybe a Thomas Jefferson, something
Oh.
like that. Who, to have that mindset 250 years ago to create something that we're still trying to live by. I guess nowadays is an
Right.
appropriate thing to say, but doing our best. Currently, the couple. Gosh, I guess an Einstein, just to hear somebody who is
Yeah.
so
Right.
exceedingly more intelligent than most people. It's just to probably be a baffling. I do a lot of listening at that table. I think
No question,
I wouldn't
no
have much to
question.
contribute,
Right.
but I ask a lot of questions.
Well, we've learned a lot from you, Brett. Thanks so much
Hey,
for
I
joining us.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.